Good afternoon, it's Mr. Kowalczyk and we're back with another business math video for business math class. Today we begin chapter 4, which is part of two chapters that make up a unit on banking. Banking is something that many of you maybe have already started to do in your lives, whether you have a savings account or perhaps even a checking account. And it's a great way to manage your money, keep it safe, and use the various features that banks offer, like loans and, once again, protecting and saving your money. Today we're going to look at section 4-1, and what we're talking about is savings accounts in chapter 4. Savings accounts are wonderful places for you to store your money. Sometimes people might feel the need to save up money for a specific goal that they may have. Perhaps they're saving money up for college, or for a new car, or just to have emergency money put away in case something bad happens. Some people might use a piggy bank or put money underneath their mattress. I prefer to use a bank because as I put that money into the bank, there's a very good chance that they can pay me for keeping my money there. That's right, get free money from the bank just for using them for my savings account. Now, I will admit, it won't be a lot of money that I make, but it's better to get a little money than no money at all. Well, what we have in front of us on this screen is a deposit slip. Now, all banks have deposit slips. They might not all look like this example, but even if it doesn't look exactly like this, you will still notice there are similar elements. There will always be a place for you to put your name and the date, and there will be an account number written somewhere on there. I will admit, sometimes your deposit slip won't have your account number written on there, so you may need to write that part in there yourself by hand. And then you'll have a place to write all the money that you're trying to deposit. Now, deposit is a fancy term for putting money into the bank. There will be a place for you to put your cash, currency specifically. We're talking, when we use the word currency, we're talking about green paper bills. George Washington, Abe Lincoln, Franklin. All right? Well, when we're talking about coins, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about pennies, dimes, nickels, quarters. All right? And so you can list how much cash you're trying to deposit. Well, sometimes you might not have any cash, no currency, no coins for your deposit. But instead what you have are checks. So what you would do here is write down your check numbers and then write down the dollar amounts. Then write down the dollar amounts. If actually you give me a second, I can show you what I mean when I say check number. Here's an example of what a check could look like, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Here's an example of what a check could look like. Right over here you see 5172. In the top right corner of a check, you're always going to be able to find some sort of check number. And that's what you would write down over here. And then, of course, the dollar amounts. If you ever have a ton of checks that you're trying to deposit, let's say you don't have 4 checks, because right here they're given a space for 4 checks. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Let's say you have 6 checks. Well, you could always flip the deposit slip over and write that information on the back. That's why they give you a box right here called total from the other side. That's in case you have a bunch of checks that you're trying to deposit. I remember when I graduated from high school, a lot of people in my family gave me money as a graduation gift, and I had 10, 15, 20 checks. Well, I had to flip over my deposit slip and write those on the back and then write the total on the front. So it is something that does happen. Then, of course, you come up with the subtotal by adding up everything that's in these boxes. And then there's a place called less cash received. This is in case you want to keep any of the money for yourself. If you have 5 checks that you're trying to deposit, you might want to keep $20 for yourself. So you would write $20 in here. But then after you write $20 in, you would have to write your signature right here. And because you're keeping that money for yourself, you're going to ultimately subtract it from your subtotal to find your net deposit. Now, I went over that pretty quickly. Let's actually do this problem above And that way you can hopefully get an idea of what I'm talking about. Jake Smith has a paycheck, check number 545 for $145, and he also has a refund check, check number 198 for $15. He would like to deposit two $100 bills, five $50 bills, and 10 quarters and 29 pennies. He would also like to keep $25 for himself in cash, and he's going to deposit everything else. So there's a lot going on here. So let's just get right going and get this going and get at it. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is write down Jake's name. So you write down Jake Smith's name all nice and neatly. Now, since it does not give us a date, let's just use today's date, and it just so happens that I'm making this video on October 21st, 2015. Alright? I'm not going to sign here just yet. I'm going to wait for that because I want to be sure that I'm doing this right. So now I go up here to currency. Currency, once again, we're talking about green paper cash. Is Jake depositing any green paper cash? Yes, he is. He's depositing two $200 bills. By the way, that's $200. And he's also depositing, now don't write any of this down just yet. I'm just kind of doing some math right now. He's also going to deposit five $50 bills. Well, five $50 bills equals $250. You see, I'm going to have to add those up, and when I add those up, I will get $450. Now, whenever you write the numbers out, you put the dollar amount to the left and the coins numbers in the right. And there's no coins, but I still have to put 00. There we go. Currency's done. Now we can do coins. Well, we know that he has 10 quarters. 10 quarters. By the way, 10 quarters is $2.50. And he also has 29 pennies. So I got 29 in there. So if I add up all of the quarters and the pennies, the purple underlines, I will get $2.79. So with that being said, we've just knocked out cash. We're done with that. Now it's time to start writing in the checks. So the checks I underlined in green. How many different checks are we going to have? Well, we're going to have two different checks. The first check is number. Notice how I'm putting 545 right there because that's the first check that we have. And it's for $145 and 0 cents. The next check I have, move that down just a little bit. The next check I have is check number 198. This one is for $15. That's it. No other checks. I don't have anything to put on the other side, so I can go right down to my subtotal. And if you've got a calculator, you can use that to add up all four of these numbers. That's right. I am adding up all four of these numbers right here. Got to add them all up to find the subtotal. Okay? I added them up. I can now write in my subtotal, $612.79. So we're not finished yet, but we're getting there. Less cash received is the next section. So I ask you once again, is Jake keeping any money for himself? Why, yes, he is. He's keeping $25 for himself. All right? And so, since he's keeping money for himself, what we need to do is put his signature in here. Look, I even tried to make it look like it's cursive. All right? Because the signature should be cursive. It should not be printed. You don't want to have someone be able to start faking your signature just because you print all the time. Cursive writing, even though you don't use it a lot, is still important. All right. With that being said, we can now figure out the net deposit. And there's a little bit of math going on here that we still need to do. So, in order to figure out what we are doing for the net deposit, we subtract. We're going to take the $612 minus the 25, and we get 587.79. Now, one way to help you remember that you always subtract at that point is right here. You see where it says less cash received? The word less is huge. Less means you subtract. So you can, if you even put a little subtraction sign right there, it's not that big of a deal. If it helps you remember it, that's fine. But 612.79 minus 25, that means Jake is depositing 587.79. Folks, what I showed you is what you will be expected to know how to do for deposit slips with savings accounts. If you have questions, please talk to Mr. K and do your best to kick some butt on this. Thanks.